Hello friend, Happy New Year and welcome to Borgcast Original Series 3.14 with Anne-Marie and Peter.
Happy New Year! Woohoo! Going nude all year.
Okay.
It's a bit cold, but, we'll get used to it. Tonight we are covering That Which Survives, or as the Japanese would have it, Mystery of Unpeopled Planets. It's a bit boring, actually, that title, but never mind.
Why is it not called The Impossible Planet? Is there already an episode called The Impossible Planet?
Original story by Michael Richards, the pen name for Dorothy Fontana, who didn't like the changes made by John Meredith Lucas.
Oh, so she used a pseudonym.
Yes. Meredith Lucas, this is his fourth of four, who was directed and produced in season 2. In the original story, Lysaira was rather more destructive and made the crew fight amongst themselves, which I think would have been odd, to be honest, so kind of glad it worked out this way. Directed by Herb Wallerstein. Second of 4 for him. He previously directed The Tholian Web.
Wait, you must not go. I am for you, Mr. Watkins. I want to touch you.
Please continue, Mr. Scott.
But if the probe doesn't precisely match the magnetic flow, there'll be an explosion.
Please commence. I'll explain.
But there's no time. Push the button.
6 seconds. 5 seconds. 4 seconds. 3 seconds. 2 seconds. 1.
It's gone. The Enterprise, it's gone.
So, you have a conversation on the bridge between Kirk and Spock about what Kirk calls a ghost planet, and Spock's like, don't get so emotional about it, it's just that the facts don't fit. And Kirk's like, well, look, let's have some facts then. So, it's only a few thousand years old, but there's vegetation, there's atmosphere, it's small but has an awful lot of mass, so it seems impossible, which Spock then says is fascinating, so let's investigate, let's give Starfleet a proper report, which is fair enough, that's what they should be doing.
Yeah,
Exploring
strange new worlds and all that.
So they request geologist Niamato.
Yes, played by Arthur Batanides, who played a cabbie in the terrible Halloween episode of Galactica 1980.
Oh.
He was Mr. Kirkland in Police Academies 2, 3, 4 and 6. 6 different characters and 6 different episodes of Mission Impossible, which must be some sort of a record, I would have thought.
Yeah.
4 different characters in 4 episodes of Wild Wild West, and various other shows where he plays multiple roles. He must really be loved by casting directors, or he knew where the bodies were buried, possibly. I do think it's nice we get a mission specialist rather than just the big 3 for a change. And lovely to have Sulu beaming down as well.
Well, I'm wondering whether part of that is because, of course, he's got botany as a hobby. And
exactly, and he makes comments on the plant life.
Yeah, he does.
Logical stuff. It's like, this is what you're supposed to be doing all the time. We shouldn't have to be remarking that this is amazing, but there we go.
Yeah.
They're getting it right for a change. Let's praise it.
Yes. Now, this is where I need your help because I can't always understand American accents because the way they pronounce T's like D's. Mm-hmm. So, does Spock summon Lieutenant Rutter to the bridge or Lieutenant Rada to the bridge?
It's Rada, as in the Actors Union.
Right.
That's the way to remember that one.
Yeah, but I can't always tell whether an American person is pronouncing a T or a D. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Americans can't tell what we're pronouncing, but anyway.
I'm sure there'll be something.
Oh, there'll be something somewhere, certainly. But anyway, it's about having your ear tuned, isn't it? To different sorts of sound, and my ear isn't tuned for that. Well, the one working ear I have, anyway. We get to see her more later, but I like her. It's not often you get to see an older woman.
No, she's
character.
Naomi Pollack, last seen in The Paradise Syndrome as one of the fake Native Americans. Her only other acting role was Mara in 19 episodes of Korg 70,000 BC.
What?
I know, it wasn't about a keyboard. It was a mid-70s...
And it wasn't about the character in, is it Guardians of the Galaxy?
Possibly. I don't know. Anyway, it's a mid-70s TV show featuring the adventures of a family of Neanderthals.
Wow.
Yeah, created by Fred Freiberger, a.k.a. producer of Season 3 of Trek.
Okay.
It was supposed to be educational, but they toned down the more troubling elements of Neanderthal life as it was meant for kids. It was a Hanna-Barbera production.
Oh.
She was a trained psychotherapist, and she's also the award-winning co-founder of San Francisco's Travelling Jewish Theatre.
Wow.
In which she also directed and acted.
Cool.
Yeah. In this, she's our helm officer, and she has a bindi, so she's possibly Hindu.
Yeah.
Roddenberry definitely off the scene at this point.
Yeah.
But it means we get 2 speaking women's roles on the bridge.
Yeah.
They're both lieutenants. There's no, not just serving coffee.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this show's,
yeah.
they're raising their game for this particular
They are.
episode anyway.
And also, as I said, she's an older woman. She's not there.
Relatively, I wouldn't...
I don't mean as in she's,
Ancient,
taking a pension. What I mean is you can tell by looking at her face that she's not just like in her 20s. She's not been put there just for you to ogle at, is my point.
No, she's a pro. Yeah,
it's
good
good.
stuff.
Korg is the one, it's the Avengers one with the Thor in it, and you've got the...
Oh, yeah, he's the guy that hangs out with Thor and plays computer games with him.
is he played by Taika Waititi?
He's voiced by Taika
Taika
Waititi.
Waititi,
Yeah, it's a CG thing. But yes, that's right. Yes, there we go.
Sorry. And then I wanted to know, I don't know that he says anything, but who's Chekhov's stand-in?
Now, he's a regular. I think he's been in practically every episode of Trek. He's a non-speaking role. So there's loads of things that a navigation officer should say in this. He's completely silent. It's like, when they spot all the stars have changed.
Yeah.
That would be the navigator who would notice that. When Spock says plot a course, that's not the helmsman's job. That's the navigator's job. But yeah, I will have to look that up because unfortunately I didn't make a note of his name, but I will insert that here. Editing Peter here. And the answer is that it's Lieutenant Hadley, as played by William Blackburn, who appeared in 63 episodes of the original series, so pretty much nearly all of them. The power of editing. It puts me up amongst the gods! Or something. Podcasting gods, maybe.
Right. And then you get another stand-in, another, well, I don't know, stand-in, but the transporter chief, is it the normal one? Is it a different one?
I don't think he's featured before. Was he Shaw? I'm not sure. Watkins.
No, Watkins.
No, he's
later.
the technician. Oh, God, don't. Anyway, I don't think he has a speaking role, so...
Okay, fair enough. And then a woman in purple appears and says that the away team must not go.
Yes, this is what we find out later, much later, towards the end of the episode, in fact, is Lysaira. She's played by Lee Merriweather, who was Catwoman in the Batman 1960s movie. There were various actors that played Catwoman. She was one of them. She also voices some Batman cartoons as non-Catwoman characters, but presumably as a nod to her 60s role. More famously, she was Lily Munster in 79 episodes of The Munsters Today.
Wow.
Yeah. I was always very confused between the Munsters and the Addams Family.
Yeah, I know. The Addams Family are the ones I know. Who are the Munsters?
Well, actually, that was the one I was more familiar with until the movies came out. I didn't know about the Addams Family until the movies came out, but I'd seen the Munsters TV show, and it's a very similar premise, although that one there's like a sort of Frankenstein type who's the main character in it, and she's kind of married to the Frankenstein, if I remember it correctly, and it was a long time ago now that I watched that. Anyway.
See, the one I remember is the one with a hand in it thing.
Yeah, no, that's not the one. This is a different one. It's weird. I think they were running concurrently as well.
Oh.
I would imagine one claimed to have been ripped off by the other. I don't know. They're slightly different in tone. The Monsters is less dark. It's more comedy.
Not sure I've seen it. Anyway, fair enough.
168 episodes of Barnaby Jones. No, me neither. Apparently, Private Eye Barnaby Jones works with his widowed daughter-in-law, whom Merriweather played, to solve cases. That never made it over here, did it?
No.
3 episodes of Murder, She Wrote.
Okay.
That's 3 different characters. 8 episodes of Mission Impossible, although 6 of those were as Agent Tracy in Season 4, which also featured...
Nimoy.
Exactly.
Except he wasn't in Season 4.
Yes, he was. I just checked that one.
Was he?
Yes, he was in the later ones. Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
I wonder if he suggested her for the gig. Don't know.
May well have done. Yeah.
She's also in 30 episodes of The Time Tunnel, There's electronics specialist Anne McGregor, and many, many more. That's just mentioning the ones she does a lot in, basically. So she's quite the actor. She makes the best of this role, which is, arguably rather thankless, embodying the computer, although she gets to show some emotions, mixes in a bit of humanity. The outfit's quite something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of gypsy styled. In now traditional season 3 purple. It was another thing that Rowan Berry didn't like, apparently. Purple.
Oh, well, guy's a cunt then, isn't he?
And as Morwenna's Tower on Tumblr pointed out, her belly button is covered.
Yep.
As per TV regulations of the time.
Yes.
Because heaven forbid we might see a woman's BB.
Well, US regulations at the time, I don't know whether Britain would have been that weird.
Now we had BBs all over the place.
Yeah, we just had other weird regulations.
Yeah, I'm sure. You probably couldn't show the left eyelash. Ooh, no.
Or shoulder or something.
Or elbow.
There would be something really weird that you couldn't do.
Yeah.
Although they probably didn't have people where you couldn't pick up a chair without being told off. That's what we had, wasn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, I've just found my notes on Ensign Wyatt, what she attacks.
Oh, Wyatt. Okay, yeah.
Who's played by Brad Forrest, who only had 2 other acting roles. And they're both in sci-fi shows, interestingly.
We are. So the away team lands, and then there's obvious use of a gimbal for a planet-wide quake.
I love it, though. They've not done anything like that previously. They've just shook the camera a bit. Here, the whole scenery moves, and it looks deadly, to be honest. Don't trap your ankle in that. Ooh.
I'm afraid, to me, it made the scenery look more fake and just made me think of Takeshi's Castle.
That's it, you've got to run across it with a giant cotton bud in your hands.
Yeah,
yes.
or something. Or there's somebody standing slightly off camera throwing balls at you.
Yeah, well, blow it. I liked it anyway, so...
Fine. It may well have looked really good on the tiny tellies that people had at the time, but in this modern age with high def, I could see how fake the scenery looked, and I'm afraid I just automatically thought of Takeshi's Castle. Sorry. But what's interesting is the ship quakes as well, which isn't logical. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing they know, the planet's buggered off.
Oh, it turns out the planet hasn't buggered off. They've buggered off.
But that's what they think.
Yeah,
Where's the planet gone? There's been a seismic reading off the scale, and your geologist man...
Tomato.
Tomato?
No.
He's called Tomato.
Tomato.
Now. He's now called Tomato. The man from Del Monte.
That was oranges, wasn't it? That wasn't tomatoes.
I thought that was tomato.
No, that was oranges. He picks the orange and goes...
Oh. Who did the tomatoes?
I don't think anybody...
Tomato advert from the 1980s.
I can't remember
or
a tomato... Who drinks tomato juice?
No, it's a tin tomato advert.
Was it? Oh, good grief. I've no idea.
Yeah, they are. Ha 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 ha! Del Monte tomatoes.
Oh, my life. Pulpi de tomati. Wow. I'm sure the advert was for orange juice, though, wasn't
Well, you might remember orange juice. I remember tin tomatoes. So maybe there was 2 adverts. Anyway, he's now called Del Monte, because I can say that, because I can't work out / remember what his name is. So, the man from Del Monte says that the seismic reading was off the scale, except...
Seismic?
Yeah. Except it wasn't even seismic. It was just power.
No, it was seismic.
It was seismic, that's what it is. It's a new word. That's what they read.
Was he one of the Transformers? One of the planes? Seismic!
Oh, dear. Starscream's alter ego, Seismic.
Yeah.
The reading was off the scale in terms of power, and then there wasn't a reading anymore. Meanwhile, Sulu says the Enterprise has gone, which means that the away team are stranded. And
Okay, I've just made a discovery, and it's disturbing.
Oh dear, Seismic is a thing?
No, Del Monte did peaches as well, apparently. There's a Del Monte peaches commercial. I didn't know that was a thing.
Walking on the beaches, looking at the peaches. Well, I got the notion, girl, that you got some...
That should have been the tune. The man from Del Monte says yes to the perfect pineapple. Was there any fruit they didn't do? That's the one, the pure orange juice one.
The juice man, not Del Monte. He say yes.
Del Monte, what we know about fruit, you can taste in our juice.
Well, I wasn't wrong that they did orange juice anyway. I can relax. I can sleep tonight.
Okay, fine. So that's quite a long teaser. When you open, Zulu's talking about how this reminds you something about he learnt about Russia, which makes sense. He's the same continent as Asia, but then you get Kirk going, Mr. Sulu, if I wanted a Russian history lesson, I would have brought Chekhov.
Which just reminds you that Chekhov's not in this episode, which is a bit bizarre. But yeah, I mean that thing where the asteroid meteor when it comes from the sky, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, made a huge crater in a forest. That's a thing.
Yeah.
And now, so I mean, and I imagine that would still be a famous thing then. So that's reasonable. Not just Chekhov would know.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on the Enterprise, they're calling in casualties after the massive quake that they had there, and they discover the transporter officer's dead. They don't know the cause, and autopsy's underway. Then Lieutenant Rada says they're nearly 1,000 light years away, and Spock doesn't like her imprecision and says it knows 990.7. And Scotty's sort of saying, this shouldn't have happened. Basically they should have blown up. What's happened is this power has just moved them. Then we hear from Dr. M'Benga.
M'Benga, yes.
Which I hadn't realised / remembered was the same M'Benga as the pilot.
No, he's not in the pilot. That's a different doctor completely. Dr. M'Benga was in Season 2's A Private Little War, which is a nice bit of continuity. Well, it's odd that he's Chief Medical Officer in Strange New Worlds and clearly not the Chief Medical Officer at this point, which is later on, but there we go. And there's also a Dr. Sanchez mentioned as well.
Dr. Sanchez.
So they're very well staffed medically suddenly in this episode, considering McCoy's had to do everything ever since A Private Little War and ever since before as well. And Nimoy seems to enjoy being in command, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, there was that episode, wasn't there? Now, I don't know if it was Season 1.
Yeah, the one with the shuttlecraft. Galileo 7.
And he was being all logical and everything.
Yeah, and rubbing people up the wrong way.
Here, he's still rubbing people up the wrong way.
But not quite as badly. It's like they've all got kind of used to it now. I mean, I love Nichelle Nichols' reactions to him, and indeed Doohan as well. Yeah, they're sort of like, oh, he's at it again.
Yeah. But I particularly like the later interactions with Doohan, but I think that might be in yours.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it turns out the cellular disruption caused death, and cellular disruption, I think, was the cause of death in the last episode.
No.
Yeah, no, I think it was, with the people who were sort of out of phase / thing, and then they aged too quickly, and they said that was cellular disruption. The effect.
Well, that would affect your cells, wouldn't it? So I wouldn't be surprised. Blimey.
I love this, that Scotty gets really sort of excited and hopeful that if the Enterprise should have blown up, was moved, then maybe the away team is still alive. And Spock is just like, I did not say that. Meanwhile, on the planet, Sulu is quite depressed because all of the vegetation is inedible. So then they have to go and look for a source of water. There's no evidence of rainfall, so is it an underground source of water? Meanwhile, Sulu is being asked to do an atmospheric scan, just in case the reason the vegetation can survive is because it's drawing the water out of the atmosphere. Bones, meanwhile, is being asked to scan for this parasite thing, which is the only biological life form they found on the planet so far. Because if that can survive, maybe they can learn something from it. They get another big reading that's reversed, then gone, and it's like a door being opened and then closed.
Which is a phrase they overuse somewhat, I think it's fair to say.
Meanwhile, the man from Del Monte is scanning, but the woman in purple appears again and says, I am for you, Lieutenant Del Monte, except it's not Del Monte. I am only for Del Monte. Do not call the others. They make inferior tomato products. McCoy says he's suddenly got a life form reading, but it's now gone. And so it's like, which direction? So they head over to the man from Del Monte, but he's dead. Every cell has been disrupted.
The man from Del Monte, he says, well, nothing, he's dead now. Who will buy our tomato juice now? We're ruined.
I don't think they did tomato juice. It was tinned tomatoes and ketchup, I thought.
Oh, crud. Okay.
Those ones you really hate.
Yeah, I hate tin tomatoes. The ones you put your fork in and they go...
Plum tomatoes.
And then cover your plate in water.
You're right.
Just the thought of it's killing me.
Kirk fires his phaser to dig a grave. There's a big bang, but no hole.
Yeah, what's that all about?
They say it looks like igneous rock, but it's too dense. It's the whole planet must be made of this, whatever this is, and covered in topsoil. Meanwhile, the Enterprise is... moving at warp 8, and Rada says it's going to take an 11.5 hours to get back to where the away team is, and Spock corrects her to 11.337 and asks her to be more precise in future. Scotty says the ship feels wrong, and Spock just says that, stop being emotional and focus on your instruments. Meanwhile, just overall on the planet and on the Enterprise, they've got more questions than they have answers. Scotty starts walking around the engine room being unhappy, and he gets an engineer, Mr. Watkins, to go and check something. But whereas quite often in these episodes we get cross that people just keep dying, Mr. Watkins is very sensible because he calls out, Mr. Scott, there's a woman here who knows all about the Enterprise before he dies.
Yeah, not only that, but he's clever enough to tell her a lie about the engine stuff. Yeah. And she says, no, I know that's not right. He's played by Kenneth Washington, who played a technician in 73's Westworld. In 24 episodes of Hogan's Heroes, playing Baker. We know about Hogan's Heroes? It was a TV series set in a World War II POW camp. And the only reason I know about it is because it's referenced in The Simpsons.
Oh.
It's got a Colonel Clink in it. But anyway.
Okay. So it's not Hulk Hogan then?
No, nothing to do with Hulk Hogan. Thankfully.
But that's when we see for the first time the fantastic effect of her sort of going through this door thing.
She blinks away.
Yeah.
She doesn't just disappear. They do an animated thing. It's such a great effect. It's so great, in fact, that they don't bother touching it with a remastered version.
Oh, good.
Because I saw the remastered one first, as I always do. I was like, oh, I bet that's a swanky thing they've put on. And then I saw the original. I was like, no, they pulled that off in 1960s.
Yeah,
amazing.
It looks really cool. Meanwhile, back on the planet, Kirk suggests that perhaps this is an artificial planet, or at the very least, hollow.
And by the way, the comment about burying the geologists under rocks, that was nice.
Yeah, they said, it'd be a fitting burial for him. They're saying it's getting dark, so they ought to sleep to conserve their energy. Sulu volunteers for first watch.
Uh-oh.
And there's an automated distress call that's been set up. And then, meanwhile, on the Enterprise, Spock is talking about everything that's been going on with this woman, because obviously there's a security alert out for her now, and it's like they must come from a high culture and they must present a great danger. At which point, Scotty's then, that means the captain and the away team are in great danger as well. On the planet, the purple woman appears and turns off the automatic distress call. Sulu tries to get her to move, and she won't. He threatens to shoot her, but clearly doesn't want to, shoots at her feet. Eventually he does actually try.
He doesn't want to because he doesn't want to kill a woman. Oh, bless. 1960s.
The thing is, there's ways of shooting that aren't shooting to kill. You could try that.
Yeah, no, in the end he tries everything, doesn't he? Bless him, nothing works.
But, he does eventually try and shoot her, but they got a force field, so he runs. And he does touch him, but only briefly on the shoulder. And then Kirk goes to intervene, and she touches Kirk, but nothing happens. It was only damaging to Sulu. It wasn't damaging to Kirk. She keeps going, I must touch Sulu. But when they won't let her get to him, she disappears via a door.
Yeah. Sulu reflects on Lysira's beauty, as if that's relevant. Uhura reports security sweeps have been found no evidence of intruders. It's nice, she gets a bit more to do in this episode.
Yeah.
She asks Spock what the chances of the others being found alive are, but Spock continues in his rather brusque manner and tells her off for considering gambling or something. It won't last long in this day and age, every other advert being bloody Betfred or all that rubbish. Then they're dealing with a power surge and they can't slow the Enterprise down. Scotty discovers they've got 15 minutes before the engines overload and they can't get at the bypass, which is a crappy bit of design work.
Yep.
Except it turns out not to be true, but there we go. I mean, surely they can just pull the plug. When does jettisoning the warp core become a thing? Well, I looked into that, and it's not until Season 5, Next Generation, the next phase. So they didn't think of being able to turn the thing off until then.
Dear.
The away team questions how Sulu managed to survive Lysira's touch, and Kirk was completely unharmed. Despite Scott seemingly having no idea how to shut the engines off, Spock improbably comes up with a plan using a magnetic probe. Scott didn't, presumably, because access to it means death to whoever tries, although it does rather survive it, but never mind.
But I like this, though, is that when they're having this conversation, you think that's probably why I never come up with it, but then Spock says, but if we don't do anything, we're all dead anyway. And I like the acting from Doohan, where he you can see him realising that and go, yeah, actually, you've got a point.
Yeah. And then he says, right, I'm going to do it because
I know this ship like the back of my hand.
Well, he doesn't quite say that, but it's not far off. Spock is wandering around with a remote control, which he picked up on the bridge. You notice that weird prop?
Yes.
Which is apparently supposed to be a computer device, but looks like a remote control, because that's what it was designed to be for Spock's brain, of all things.
Oh.
It has to be said, Spock constantly fiddling with it a bit is rather distracting, but never mind. Meanwhile, he's going to use the computer to find out why the ship feels wrong. Kirk surmises that the next time Lysira appears, the other two away team members will be able to get in her way without being hurt. Then his phaser goes into overload and he has to throw it to the back of the set, where it explodes with a nice practical effect. Quite a large explosion, that one.
Yeah.
Scotty uses a cool opening panel to access a crawlway, which is a new set. Very good. And they have to sort of lift him up and put him in.
I like that.
They visualise the antimatter flow using some of that blue plasma lightning overlaid, which is very effective. Apparently they're at warp 11.2, which of course is supposed to be impossible, but yeah, this is early days still. Scotty uses a doohickey, which looks like it meant to be used to break into a safe. He's, sort of twisty, dialy thing. Yeah. He's understandably annoyed with Spock's continual announcements of the time that he's got left.
Yeah, he does. I don't need a cuckoo. Well, something like I don't need a cuckoo clock or something, doesn't he?
Lasira reappears, this time coming for Kirk, so the other two shield him. She accuses the captain of being an invader, which is ironic because it's her that only appears to be able to move from side to side. McCoy picks up no readings from her, so maybe she is a computer game. She gives her name and says she's commander of this station. She doesn't want to kill him, but is sent to defend the place. And then she does another disappear. They use the traces of a power surge to find the entrance to a cave opening before them, which is a nice bit of set work. Using a cool pincer prop, Scotty intends to try and cut through the flow. Spock tells him to reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. I wonder if Pertwee saw this episode. Scotty's probe gets jammed, and he says that they need to eject him, but Spock presumably has faith in his miracle worker status as he fixes the flow after the countdown has been completed. Not even on the count of 1 or 2. No, after the countdown's finished. It's great that Scott
maybe he has faith in the imprecision of human countdowns.
Maybe. It's great that Scott gets to be the hero, although he doesn't get a thank you, of course. Inside the cave, the away team enter a room dominated by a fantastic illuminated cube, seemingly floating in the middle of the room. Lasira is there too, after Kirk, so the heroes protect him, but then we get 3 Lasiras, 1 for each of them. That's a nice split-screen effect. But they, unfortunately, they do look like Legs & Co. about to perform Starship Troopers on top of the pops. Quite why the defence system didn't try this from the start is a bit of a baffler. I mean, it would have all been over a lot quicker, wouldn't it? But no, apparently, until this point, they can only attack 1 at a time.
Maybe they've only needed 2 before.
Just in time, Spock beams down with Ensign Lemley, who we've seen before, who shoots the cube. It's one of Lemley's 33 appearances. It must be said, this is not the most elegant of solutions to the plot. Just shoot the damn thing, but never mind. Lasira appears on a wall, which is another great effect. She reveals that she was the last of her people wiped out by a plague, which was the thing that McCoy was picking up at the beginning.
Yeah.
Kirk jumps to the conclusion that the regret the Lasira defence system had was copied from the original woman used as the pattern. McCoy has to dwell on her beauty, because of course, but Spock points out it's transitory. Kirk maintains it survives, looking wistfully at the image of Lasira. And that's our episode. I mean, in some ways it's slightly slight in its plot, and that the resolution is, lightning fast and a bit lazy, but other than that, it's great to see Spock in command again.
It's good, and he hasn't stopped being Vulcan. It's just that they can cope with it now.
Yes, everybody seems to have adapted to him, which is nice. There's a bit of progression in the characters. Yeah,
character growth. And you get 2 good women characters. You get
Mbenga again, which is lovely.
Yeah,
nice they remembered him.
You get Sulu doing more than just flying the ship, and a callback to his botany interest.
Yeah.
It's I don't find the ending too bad because it took the working out that Scotty's intuition that something was off with the Enterprise and Spock.
In some ways, the natural climax of the episode is Scotty doing his business.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounded disgusting, sorry. Oh, dear.
Scotty
Mommy,
on the job.
Why is he out? That would have been a whole different episode. Sorry about that. It's a mental image I didn't need.
Oh.
Rest in peace, James Newhart. No, but him, being the miracle worker and saving the day, even past the countdown, it was like yay, and then they've got to beam down and shoot the thing, and that kind of feels a bit of a
But to me, that feels like it's only because it's a bit like this. It's the tidying up at the end. The main threat was going on the Enterprise. Having dealt with that on the Enterprise, they then have the tools they need to very easily solve the problem on the planet.
And that's what's so good about this episode. Actually, the really interesting stuff, as per usual, doesn't revolve around Kirk.
No.
And because he's on the planet, that means that we can get to focus a lot more on Spock. So, yeah, no.
And it's not like Kirk gets nothing to do.
No, he's got stuff to do. And you get more Sulu as well than usual, which is nice. But actually the focus is, normally, let's face it, the focus is just the big three.
Yeah.
And here there's stuff for the other characters to do, which is lovely.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I do find... Is it Lycira, is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do find her outfit really peculiar, but now I understand the belly button covering thing.
Yes.
It makes a bit more sense of the weird sticky up bit at the top of her trousers.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, you know, that they had weird things about not showing belly buttons. We had only the right person is allowed to pick up a chair. It's just like we had, you know, different problems. Because that's why there was stuff about strikes and that on Doctor Who, wasn't it?
Oh, no, that's about unions. That's rather different to, you know, sort of section mores, which is what this is about. I mean, for a long time we couldn't show an ankle in this country. I know that. So women's ankles had to be covered at all times, in all places. Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, I know, it is weird, but there we go.
Oh, well. I mean, generally speaking, I really enjoyed this.
I mean, I wouldn't say it was a classic, because it doesn't really stick in the memory. You know, when you think of Trek, and admittedly, it's partly because I've seen season 3 less often, but this isn't an episode that springs to mind. But there's nothing particularly bad about it. There's nothing egregiously 1960s about it.
I think there is...
Except for, you know, McCoy's and Sulu's occasional comments about her being so beautiful. That's pretty much it, really. You wouldn't do that now, but other than that...
I think the thing is, it's not iconic.
No, it's definitely not iconic.
But
no.
because it hasn't been shown that much, because most of the season it comes from is really a bit poo, and probably Shatner doesn't like it being shown because he's not really in the lead role. Nimoy is, but it's a really good episode.
Yeah, and it's not flaccid either. We already established that parameter, so yeah. I don't know what we call this one really. Just a sort of vanilla Trek. Which is running it down, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. It isn't iconic, and I think for something to be a classic, it's got to also be iconic, if you see what I mean. So it can be iconic and bad,
yeah.
But to be a classic, it's got to be both iconic and good. This isn't iconic, but it is really good.
Yeah.
I think it's a classic.
Merely good Trek, which for season 3 is amazing.
Yeah, really good Trek. Yeah.
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 RGT.
Rugged. Can I just make one general comment? And it just occurred to me in this episode, but it's not specific to this episode.
Uh-huh.
Why do anything that's scanning make that really fucking annoying noise?
High-pitched noise.
Why have they not engineered them to not make that really annoying noise?
I don't find this... Because you're talking about the tricorder sound effect.
The medical tricorder makes the same annoying noise.
Yeah. And in this episode, we get a geological tricorder as well, which has got a slightly different design. Oh, excitement. Anyway, the bottom line is, I don't find... there is a sort of high-pitched whistliness about 60s sound effects that you don't get in 80s, 90s Trek. I don't know why that is, but... perhaps people's hearing changed. I don't know.
Really sets my teeth on edge. And it's like, if I was living in that universe, I would have killed people. And it's just like, why have they not...
Let's face it, you kill people in any universe, my darling.
Oh, thanks! But also, I mean, it's like, why don't all the dogs come running or randomly piss up their legs or something? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
It's just really fucking annoying, that's all. Sorry.
We've heard, and I'm sure they're not going to talk about that, we've heard from Jeff Hyman. This one is a little weird, but pretty fun. It's too bad Eartha Kitt was never on Star Trek, but 2 out of 3 Adam West Catwomen ain't bad. That's true enough. Trying to think now who the other one was, and of course that's going to cast my mind back, isn't it? So the other actor I was trying to think of was Julie Newmar, who, of course, played Eileen in Friday's Child and got into that slap-off with McCoy. We've also heard from Boss. This is an episode of TOS, which is much the same as many of the others. There is nothing that stands out, either good or bad. The story is thin, and is padded out by characters both old and new saying the usual things. We get to meet a couple of new crew members, a geologist that doesn't last long, and a new woman.
A woman?
At the helm, filling in for Sulu. It was good for Sulu to get involved in the away mission, although I suspect this only occurred to allow Spock to captain the Enterprise. Speaking of Spock, I thought his part was badly written as he made too many unnecessary corrections, came across as a bit of an arse. Usually I enjoy his interactions with Scotty. No, Spock's got a Spock. The alien computer and its female avatar managed to be both extremely powerful and incredibly weak at the same time. It could transport the Enterprise across the galaxy, but was defeated by people standing in its way.
Yeah, when you put it like that,
and the single phaser shot. Well, the phaser shot didn't stop it, but the people standing in the way did, which is even weirder.
But you can only just think it's computers are efficient. If that worked as a defense mechanism before, then it wouldn't. You do what works. It's only when it stopped working that it therefore changed.
At least Kirk didn't try seducing Lysaira, as a touch would have killed him. The scenes on the Enterprise were marginally better as Scotty got to be the hero, crawling inside a tube for a change. I'm pretty sure the countdown had reached 0 before he fixed the issue, though. Yes, that's the whole point. That's the kind of hero he is. He doesn't even have to worry about reaching 0 on the countdown. Getting to warp 14 was impressive, considering future starships couldn't get past 9. Well, technically 10, but yes.
But they didn't turn into lizards.
No lizards here for some reason. Overall, it felt like a filler episode. Happy New Year. Oh, yeah. I think it would have felt like a filler episode in Season 1 and possibly Season 2. In Season 3, it's a breath of fresh air, as far as I'm concerned.
But I think my criteria seem to be different to most other people's, but it doesn't feel like a filler episode for me. Kirk is fine, because he's not in it too much, and he's in most of Trek too much. So already, do you know what I mean? That's a tick for me. And for me, Spock doesn't feel like he's an arse. It feels like he finally feels able to be himself, and the crew cope with that. So like Uhura's reaction, she's just sort of realising that there's just no point in trying to argue about it, whatever, just... Yes, Mr. Spock.
Yes, Mr. Spock.
Yeah,
and Scotty's much the same.
Yeah,
I like
and that's
that.
what they're...
And there's a sort of fondness in their faces as well. Yeah, well, I mean, these are actors that have known each other now for 3 years.
But I think also, earlier on, they saw it as either an insult or a threat or a question, that like he was questioning their capability. And he isn't. He just would rather they were more precise. They know that now, that it's not about... He's not questioning their ability to be precise. He's just wishing they were more precise. Does that make sense? He's not criticising them in that sense. He just would rather they were more precise, less emotional, whatever. Because, and I think if this was happening in an earlier season, maybe I
mean, compared to the classics of Season 1, this does feel very weak sauce. But as I say, because this season has been so weak, this actually seems like... I mean, I would list this as certainly up in the top 3 of Season 3 very easily.
But I would say it's better than a lot of episodes and a lot of the rest of them, just because there isn't any rape.
There is the dodgy stuff you get some.
There isn't any racism, at least not that I'm aware
Nope.
of. There isn't much in the way... For the time, it does good on the sexism count.
Yes,
I mean, you still
contains mild sexism is probably the worst you can say.
Yeah, and... When Kirk's in it, he's actually good, and thankfully he isn't in it very much. You know, for me...
No shacting this episode.
Exactly. So, and you've got decent sci-fi concept of... You've got the fantastic effect of going for the door, decent sci-fi concept. So for me, this is a really good episode, and I would put it up there with a lot of my favourites, but then I don't like a lot of the episodes a lot of other people do. Because Kirk, mostly.
Let's find out what Sampo and Yona thought.
Hello.
Hello.
So we just watched That Which Survives.
What happened in it?
Well, Spock had taken an extra logic pill today, I think, because whenever anyone said something, it was like, actually it's like 14.97 seconds, which is the time that it took for him to say it, so it was originally up. Or, come on, there's no reason to say thank you. That's being illogical or something. What's illogical about saying
No, it
thank
wasn't
you?
illogical. It was
Emotional.
Emotional, and yeah.
Well,
and Spock being illogical again himself, since when he was in charge in Enterprise, he said that it was no time for guessing, and when he arrived to the moon-sized phony planet, he started, I assumed you were dead.
Yeah.
And also he didn't say anything when Kirk said that it's fun to see you.
Yeah, but Kirk is his superior,
Yeah,
so...
he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of unintentionally funny sexist things in there. The first one was that when the one guy, I don't remember his name, he told like, Scotty, there's a woman in engineering. He was like, he's right in there. What, a woman? It can't be. And another one when the woman showed up on the planet and Kirk listened to her for a while, and then he was like, are there any men here? Like, maybe he just wanted someone sensible to talk to or something.
But there weren't.
So yeah, on the whole, I mean, there were good bits in there. I mean, the whole premise was fascinating. That's what could throw the Enterprise 1,000 light years away. And what is this thing that can only sort of kill one person at a time and all that? But the problem is that there really wasn't any other explanation other than, okay, there was a really powerful computer and it did all that. So that actually took a lot of oomph away from the mystery because there wasn't a proper explanation for anything.
What was the polarity that you have to turn from your screwdriver?
I don't know. It was very Doctor Who, and I don't really understand it. I mean, I guess something took apart the whole Enterprise and then put it back together, but they made a mistake. And I do like that Scotty was able to just sense it, even though he wasn't able to pinpoint the reason.
Yeah, but again, feelings were important, kind of.
That is correct. But like Spock said, he didn't dismiss the feeling. He did note it, even though he did say that there's no time for this sort of gobbledygook or something. Well, he didn't use the word gobbledygook, but that's what he meant.
He did use the word Northern Lights.
Yeah, I mean that's a reasonable way to describe something.
Yeah.
I mean, Spock was being a bit too Spock in this episode, but yeah. Even though I thought the premise was fascinating until the end result sort of ruined it. It was also a bit too slow and boring because the same stuff just happened again and again. And then in the end, no real good explanation. And then just Spock and a guard show up and they shoot the disco ball and that's it.
The geologist who died in Planet, it was sad because he was so happy that he could go to some conference with this information he is about to be learned. He literally jumped a little bit and he was so happy. Yeah. It was sad that he had to die. Who would have guessed that if I would guess that he would die, but guessing was illogical, so I didn't guess it, and then he died.
Well, taking into account the three main characters and one new face, it's quite logical actually to surmise who will die.
Actually.
Well, actually.
Who would have guessed?
Is there a man here I can talk to?
Oh my.
Yeah.
And we'll see you tomorrow then. Next year.
Yeah, 2025. Let's see what.
A woman?
Let's see what 2025 brings. Yeah, hopefully better episodes, although I'm not holding my breath. Even I'm still waiting for the hippie episode.
This episode was so boring.
Thank you for your feedback. It will be noted. Yeah. Okay. Until next time. Bye.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Happy New Year. Yes, the hippie episode, I can't remember now if it's March or May. It's a month that begins with M anyway, so we've got a bit of breathing space yet, folks.
I'd forgotten about Are There Any Men Here?
That is awful, isn't it? Yes, you can't possibly be in control. Are there any men here?
See, I thought it was more like, clearly you're Randy. Have you not got any...
anybody to let off steam with?
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. The man from Del Monte was really happy.
Yes. Yeah, but also sort of, he was focused on his job as well. That's what I liked about that scene between him and her. It's like, yes, okay, but you know who I am. How do you know who I am? How can we get water? That's kind of my main reason.
Yeah.
It was kind of sweet, I thought.
Yeah, I liked him.
Yeah. But he died.
Oh.
And he didn't even wear a red shirt, so there you go. That's really not a thing, is it?
I thought he was wearing a red shirt. No, he wasn't.
No, it was blue.
Yeah.
Science is logical.
But he still got buried in his rocky grave.
He did, yes.
But they wrote his name badly on one
in
of
Sharpie,
the boxes.
yes. Where did he get that Sharpie
I don't
from?
know. I presume they used the phaser to burn it in. But...
Oh, if so, that wasn't a good job. Anyway, stop reminding us of bad things about this story that we actually quite enjoyed.
Yes. Sorry you didn't.
Yes, let's find out what Llama God thought, shall we?
Llama Scotty, fixie care. Yeah, fixie noi. The skies are strange, Now, here's an episode then that's interesting enough, and with a central mystery and some peril that manages just about to sustain the episode. Wouldn't say it's a classic one that I enjoyed thoroughly, but it was enough to keep going for a good part of the episode, so I guess that's something, a small miracle here. The central problem with the Enterprise, where they can't figure out what's wrong with the engines until Spock correctly deduces that they've been put out of phase with the universe somehow, and his solution to that is to reverse the polarity. Now, I'm wondering, had Doctor Who already done that at this point, or did the writers of the Pertwee series see this and take that as inspiration? I am very curious as to know that. I guess people doing this podcast will know better than me, but it's interesting to see this kind of jargon start to creep in, because I don't think this sort of Trek has really done that kind of jargon before. It hasn't done fire, neutrinos and positrons. It's usually Kirk talking someone to death or just using a phaser or something, so yeah, that was a bit odd to see, but at the start of something wonderful and then not so wonderful. Just like the previous episode, Wink of an Eye, this episode also features another civilization that pretty much wiped themselves out. Wink of an Eye they can't quite, but they're getting there. Does this perhaps reflect some fears of the 1960s, where technology was advancing too fast? Probably. It would indeed fit in with some of the B movies, you know, with the giant ants and stuff, which fearing from the fallouts of the atom bomb monsters, even the X-Men and stuff like that, so maybe, it was interesting to see that anyway. There's certainly some nice stuff in the episode, the fact that we get Spock staying on the bridge for a change, which is like, why the fuck haven't they done that before? Obviously it means that we get the main cast to split over the two locations that are in danger. It's nice to know that Kirk guessed in advance that the story was going to need that. Well done, I guess that's why he's captain. The downside, of course, is that we get a male away team member who isn't a red shirt for a change, and also is a male, I guess, because he has to be attracted to Lysira and has to succumb to her touch, because of course a female crew member couldn't have been attracted to Lysira, because this is the 1960s, and indeed would stay that way until the early 2000s. Thank you, Rick Berman, I don't think. That whole conceit, though, does give us a nice little twist that, for once, here's a woman that Captain Kirk can't touch to get his way out of. Although the solution at the end, when Spock finally figures things out and beams down, the solution to stop the projections is to just destroy the computer. The fact that Kirk just shouts, "Spock, the computer destroyed!" Like, yeah, is this what you do with an unknown civilization? I mean, I know you're in some dire straits there, but you could have beamed up now, couldn't you? So, yeah, that was a bit dodgy. Not entirely keen on that one. But on the other hand, kind of fitting with some of the 60s Trek anyway. If we don't understand it and it's a danger, we destroy it. So, yeah. It is a shame, really, that Lysira wasn't more of a character. She's just there as a plot device, really. She looks nice and then she kills men. I'm sure there's no commentary to produce from there at all. And yeah, she couldn't have been in character, really, because, you know, she's dead. That was just an automated thing. But, yeah, you could have done something. You know, Next Generation would have done things with videotapes or adding extra personality or something like, I don't know. It just seemed a bit of a wasted opportunity, really. Just a bit more misogyny. But then, hey, part of the course, isn't it? And there's some really nice stuff between Spock and Scotty on the Enterprise, where they're both trying to figure out what's going wrong. I like Spock's initial dismissal of Scotty's hunch that something feels wrong with the Enterprise, and the fact that he then comes around to it, and that's what helps him figure out the problem. That's really nice there, Spock sort of learning the human side of things, so that was good to see. The interplay between the two is nice, also with Scotty prepared to sacrifice himself to save the ship at the last moment, so yeah, there's some nice stuff there as well. The only really bad thing, really, in this episode is, of course, because the extra male crew member dies on the away team, the trapped Kirk and McCoy decide they have to bury him, and so they make a headstone that says Lieutenant D'Amato. Yeah, well done, they didn't even know his first name, so yay, well done, Captain, good to know all your crew. Yeah, as I say, on the whole, kind of enjoyable. I'll confess, I'm in a slightly fugued state, being halfway between Christmas and New Year, which is why these thoughts aren't really more detailed than that. I'm just not in the place for that. But yeah, it was kind of an episode that happened, and I watched it, and it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either, so somewhere in between. So yeah, but as ever, I've been interested to find out what anyone else thought of this, and whether someone else can give a more detailed summation of the episode. I hope everyone's had a good Christmas, I hope you've all had a good New Year, and I hope you're all ready for what's coming in 2025. And may whatever God you believe in have mercy on your souls, or more importantly, the souls of your enemies. Glory to you and your cast.
Thank you, sir. I always thought they couldn't fit any more on the Rock.
Yeah, it is bad though, isn't it? We could use his first name or his rank. Let's go with rank. Oh!
To be fair, rank would matter to service personnel.
I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, none of them have got any kind of qualification in stonemasonry.
No, they and if you're right, they're using a phaser to do it as well.
On a rock.
LT is probably a bit easier.
Yeah,
okay, we'll give them that.
They didn't run out of room to finish his name and just write Lut Demac, did they?
Yeah, but I thought there was more to Lysira than that, personally. I like the fact that she was conflicted because she didn't actually want to kill, but that was her role that she was created for. So at least there was something a bit more to her. But yes, you're right, the solution was a bit easy, to say the least. But Pertwee came later, so I suspect, yes, the writers in the Pertwee era had seen 60s Trek, because there are various other bits and pieces in Pertwee era who that you think, oh, that's a bit Trek, isn't it? It's like, yes, they've been watching that series, haven't they?
Well, I mean, you would hope in a way that they would, because it was a seminal sci-fi series at the time. They're writing a sci-fi series in what was their present time. You would hope that they'd watched seminal sci-fi things.
And we've heard from Purry.
Hello, Orgs. Purry here to talk about That Which Survives. Now, this is an episode I always vaguely remember, but again, doesn't ever kind of make it into my top episodes. And to be fair, you know, it's not the greatest episode, but it's not a stinker either. There's some nice concepts in here. Again, some decent ideas. You obviously have Kirk, McCoy, and Sulu, for a change, trapped on a mysterious planet. And I mean, that's the basis of it. We have a weird planet with weird stuff happening. In this case, a mysterious lady in purple with amazing eyeshadow keeps turning up and killing people by touching them. And that is a bit hokey, her walking towards Sulu going, I must touch you. That's kind of weird. But there is a general sense of unease and weirdness, which I quite like. Similarly, she's on the Enterprise as well, sabotaging it. Now, Spock appears to be playing with a fidget toy through most of this. I don't know if they were wanting him to be looking like he was in calculations. And indeed, Spock just seems particularly arsey in this. I actually thought Spock wasn't particularly well written. It's like they kind of amped up his kind of Vulcanness. He's constantly dissing the Navigate, the new helmswoman, and that sort of thing. He's getting at everyone. And I think if they put something in that it's because he's worried about Kirk and Bones, which you can imply that he's worried about them, and so he's absolutely focusing on things. You could get that, but this doesn't always come off. But we did have, there's some really good stuff in the Enterprise as well, with Scotty's thing on the ship feeling wrong and having to climb into like a conduit thing to probe something because the engines are running wild. All those bits just work quite well, and again, the crew having to kind of avoid this woman who appears. And I actually quite liked her kind of going flat and then vanishing effect as well. The main thing is that it is ultimately everyone just kind of meandering about until they eventually work out what's going on. And, in that respect, the plot's pretty thin. There's something up with the Enterprise and they've got to try and get back to Kirk. Kirk's and his lot are trying to survive on the planet. We lose our, we've got the guy who turns up, don't learn his name, you're not going to get attached, and sure enough, he's the first one to go. They're a geologist. And I did actually like some of the exchanges, the hell of a way to die, and McCoy I think says there's not really a good one. And similarly, seems lonely. I was like, it would be worse if he had company. I actually liked a lot of those bits. So I think in this one, potentially it's a sign of the writers and general people involved making a lot out of some fairly sparse material that we're given with. And as it turns out, like, it's not a classic, but it's not like one of the all-time highs, but it's a decent enough episode. I had an enjoyable 40-odd minutes of watching, so I actually quite like this one. So possibly also that aside from everything going well, she's quite pretty. To a woman who's a female commander of a station. There wasn't too much in the way of iffy stuff in it, at least as far as I picked up. Maybe I'm just in a generous mood because I've stuffed myself full of cheese for the past week and we're in this liminal space between Christmas and New Year, or at least I am at time of recording. I don't know when this go out, so Happy New Year to everyone when it comes. And I hope you all had a very good Christmas. Now, again, all that remains for me to say is do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast and hopefully feedback in the next one. But until then, bye for now.
Bye! Good to hear somebody else has been stuffing themselves full of cheese.
Yeah. Does it make you generous?
No, it makes me want to eat lots of Gaviscon, unfortunately. Because I've reached that age, but hey. Spock's fidget toy. It is, isn't it?
Though, isn't it? It is. It's Spock's fidget spinner. Yeah.
Oh, mine, but it serves no purpose.
Well, I thought...
It's like Nimoy said, I need something to do with my hands. Who actor was like that? There was one of the...
No, it was Peter Cushing was always like
That's
that.
it, Peter Cushing, yes. Always had to have a prop to play with.
See, initially, watching it, I thought that he had, like, effectively the kill switch, for Scotty in the tube. But Rada's got that, hasn't she? So I don't know what the fuck that was.
No, it serves no purpose at all. It just... beyond to irritate, basically, but there we go. Yes, the plot is paper thin, but at least, as you say, it's less offensive than most of season 3. So,
and it's a female commander of a space station.
Yeah. And McCoy is good in this, yes, and it's nice to have him interacting with Sulu for a change as well. You don't get much of that, so I enjoyed it. For what it was.
She was wearing purple.
Yes. I mean, it's not a classic. It's not the best thing ever, but it's
enjoyable.
Competent Trek, which season 3 up till now has been seriously lacking in.
For me, it's more enjoyable than just competent.
No, I enjoy Competent Trek. That's my point. It's, but that should be a baseline rather than, hey, we've actually got a competent episode for a change.
Yeah.
Hey ho. Will the next episode be the same?
What's it called?
We're covering on the 16th, and it's Let That Be Your Last Battlefield.
Oh, that's not the black and white people.
I think it's the black and white people.
God.
Abandon subtlety, or ye who enter here.
Oh, wow.
Oh dear, never mind. But, to sugar the pill, next week on the 9th, we'll be covering the first episode of Lower Decks Season 5. Yay! Dos Cerritos! Oh yeah! So this will help us, it exactly helps us get through the rest of Season 3, because we will be alternating and be finishing at the same time Season 3 and of TOS and Season 5 of Lower Decks. Excellent. The Trek fates have been kind to us or some such.
Yes.
I don't know. Still, the animated series awaits. Anyway.
Some of that was good. I can remember enjoying some of the episodes.
There's an awful lot of it in Lower Decks, actually. So,
yeah.
Including Dos Cerritos. But anyway, that'll wait till next week. Till then, take care. Cheerio, bye.
Bye.
May all your Trek be competent. The Star Trek theme was written by Alexander Courage, and here was arranged and performed by Drew Barker.
The artwork was created by Andy Palastides.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
We have a Facebook group which you're welcome to join.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com. Find us on Blue Sky at broadcastammo.bsky.social.
And I'm at revorg.bsky.social.
Shut it down!